Welcome to 12 Scholars, and in this tutorial we're going to look at meetings, but specifically poor meetings. And we're going to visit a local parish council that's recently hit the headlines, but for all the wrong reasons. And it's a village that I'm fairly familiar with because it's one that I'll drive through whenever I get the chance to visit our printers. So, we're off to Handforth, and we're going to take a closer look at their most recent car crash of a council committee meeting, but through the lens of leadership and what can we learn. Now, if you're still wondering what we're talking about, where have you been? Because this has been all over the BBC and the socials, including this tweet that was sent by former Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne. So let's have a read. Local democracy in action. Don't remember Handforth being quite so lively when I was MP there. So George Osborne used to be the MP for Tatton, of which Handforth is part of. So what's the backstory? Well, Handforth Parish Council has become dysfunctional, and over the last 12 months they've got themselves into a spiral of decline, where things have gone from bad to worse. And before Christmas they held an extraordinary committee meeting, which was recorded on Zoom, like all good things, and posted to the internet. Now, this particular meeting has got all the characteristics and all the behaviours of what poor looks like. It's got people falling out, bad behaviours, shouting, people getting kicked off Zoom. It's got a lot of disruptive behaviour that's captured the nation's imagination. So we thought, what could we learn? If we were in Handforth Parish Council's shoes, what would we do right now? What are the tools and techniques that we could apply? And what's the one thing we would do going forward? So we're going to introduce two tools. The first one is a two-step retrospective, WWW and AFI. So what went well? Well, first up, the meeting took place using best available technology. And under the circumstances and the background of this meeting, that's a miracle. So congratulations, tick in the box. They also covered a lot of ground later on in the meeting. And if you watched the video in its entirety, like I did, you'll find out they actually covered a lot of key points. So another tick in the box. Now, when you look at this, it's actually opened up a debate, wider than Cheshire, of what do local councillors do? What do they get up to? And it's open debate about what meetings should be and what should be recorded on Zoom or off Zoom. And there's plenty of lessons in here. I've certainly learnt a lot, and I'm sure you have too if you've watched this video. And then there's Jackie Weaver. So she's the knight in shining armour. She's a lady from Cheshire, from the Cheshire authorities, that's come in to try and help and support the parish council. And she comes out smelling of roses, which is great. So AFI, areas for improvement. Well, there's a few things here. The conduct and behaviour was very poor. We've got swearing, shouting, people talking over each other. But we've also got aspects and elements of bullying going on. Now, as local council leaders, we'd expect them to be calling it out and setting an example. From the outside looking in, the roles and responsibilities are unclear. And although they're using technology, they haven't quite got to grasp with what the mute function is all about. When looking at the agenda, it might have worked 20 years, 50, 100 years ago, but today I'm sure there's better ways that the local council can adapt and use modern technology and collaborative tools to make their agenda far more effective. And if you look at any other business, a lot of time most people put it at the bottom of an agenda, but here we've got them where they've got it at the top of an agenda, and that's actually quite disruptive, where you've got members of the public and other people chiming in at the top of a meeting, and that kind of unsettles the mood. So let's have a look at the characters involved in this meeting, a who's who at Handforth. And I've identified 4 disruptors and 4 keepers of the peace. So let's have a look. First up, we've got Brian Tolver, and he's chairman of Handforth Parish Council, or who I would like to call Mr. Disruptor-in-Chief. Now, he starts the call and goes straight into an argument and starts shouting, and immediately loses the respect of many people on the call. Now, the background here is the previous meeting they held, he got kicked out and was put in a Zoom room by himself. Now, you don't have to hang around too long before he gets kicked out again. So that's Brian Tolver. Next up, we've got Allard Brewerton, the Vice Chairman of Handforth Parish Council. And he's quite a disruptive character. He calls in on his iPad and there's somebody else in the room with him, and you can hear him talking in the background. And again, it doesn't take long before he kind of loses his temper and again gets removed from the meeting. Then we've got Councillor Burkle, who is the Mayor of Cheshire East Council. Now, he doesn't really do himself too much justice and doesn't really kind of stop any of this bad behaviour. And this last week, there's been a vote of no confidence in him. So this is an ongoing saga, with this live happening right now. Julie's iPad, quite a disruptive force. We don't know who Julie is or what she is, but this is an iPad that just comes up with Julie's iPad on the screen and is very disruptive for anyone on the call because it's not on mute. Next up, we've got Councillor Sue Moore, one of our keepers of the peace. And what I like about Sue is she's not afraid to call out bad behaviour and get everybody back on track. Then we've got John Smith, who actually does himself justice in the end because he takes over the role as chair. And actually we cover quite a lot of ground in the end. Then we've got quite a few members of the public, including Roger Small. Now, when I talked about AOB being at the top of the agenda, this is where Roger Small pulls out item 16.8, which was an item raised about 3 years ago relating to public houses, and in particular the Railway Hotel, possibly his local, who knows. And then we've got Jackie Weaver, the unsung hero of the show. Now, Jackie isn't part of the parish council. She works the wider authorities in Cheshire, offering advice and support. But because Jackie's responsible for the Zoom call, she's the one allowing people into the room, but also the one kicking people out. So there's some of the characters involved, and we've also gone through what went well and areas for improvement. But what else could we do? What other tools and techniques could we use? Well, if we were Handforth Parish Council right now, I believe there's one tool that would make all the difference, and we call it RC, and it's all about roles and responsibilities. So RC is 4 words that form a hierarchy of responsibilities, and at the top here we've got the person with the highest level of responsibilities for decision making, and at the bottom we've got the person with the least responsibility for decision making. So how would this work at Handforth? Well, at the bottom, informed, that's members of the public and other stakeholders that merely need to be informed. They don't need to be there, or if they do, they should all be on mute. And that could include Judy's iPad. At the next level, you've got those who should be consulted. Now that could include Roger Small and his railway pub. It could include local planning permissions, but it's all the sort of people who should be consulted on certain issues. Then you've got those who are responsible. Now, without shadow of a doubt, that's going to be the councillors to some degree, but also there might be other people in there as well. Then we've got the person who's accountable. Now that should only be one person. Now, it's unclear whether that's the chairman, the clerk, or the mayor. Now, there's a number of different people who are involved here, and to me, looking from the outside in, it's unclear. And I think that's where all the problems have arisen from. They're not clear with their RC. So that's just one tool, and I believe it could make all the difference to Handforth. For members of 12 Scholars, you'll find more information on this and more on the learning platform. So how can we pull this together? What have we learned? Well, you get what you're prepared to accept. So make sure there's a difference between what's unacceptable and what's acceptable, and make sure that gap is as wide as you can. All good leaders are good role models and should exhibit good behaviours. In the words of Dale Carnegie, never criticise, complain or condemn. But when in doubt, RC. So over to you. If ever you find yourself in difficult meetings or situations, just step back for a moment and think about what went well and areas for improvement. Then you can review your RC. So that's just 2 tools that we've touched on today. You'll find a few more on our website and also the YouTube channel. But for our members, they're all available via our learning platform. So who is 12 Scholars? Well, our vision is to build an institute for leadership development, where excellence is the mission. We're available in digital, audio and print, and you can join us via our membership programme. And honestly, I would love to see you there. So that's it. That's all I wanted to touch on today. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed putting it together. If you haven't already, make sure you click the button to subscribe. But you might also be interested in our weekly newsletter, which is called The Sunday Scholar. Guess which day it comes out? My name's Bob Buckley, and I look forward to seeing you next time.